Um, Good morning. Welcome to one of these Saturdays again that we do our Bible study. Some of you may have wondered where was I. So I came in. I need a haircut. I came in contact with somebody who had tested positive for COVID, and following protocol, I have to self quarantine myself, and I was waiting for my results also from the COVID test. They came negative. For first, I never thought I would feel good about being negative for the first time in my life. I feel really awesome to be negative. So I take that. So welcome to our Bible study. Today, I want you to have in mind Doug and Rachel. They are Noi. They are having their wedding today, and so we pray for them and for many blessings to them. And we are also praying for the new grandson of Ed and Lynn's Morelli. Uh, Lou was just born, so we pray for a long life for him and a very healthy one, and to bring many joy to his family. So again, we continue with our uh, conversation on the uh, encyclical from Pope Francis, Fratelli Tutti. We are going to continue to discuss. The last time we got together, we talked about the first and the second chapter in the encyclical, and I thought it was going to be short. Pope Francis being a good Hispanic, and me too, so we tend to be wordy. So it's a long document. And it's actually a very good document that I find it, and I think the most important thing that I found in this document, as I've read it all and I reflect on it, and is that Pope Francis gave us something to reflect, something to ponder on. It's not kind of a heavy intellectual dogmatic document, but rather like a very realistic and very down to earth document in which is inviting us to reflect and to discuss uh, these new possibilities. And again, it's Pope Francis having in mind the totality of the church, the totality of the human race, and so we are happy. I'm happy to be able to share this document with you, to share this moment, this time with you. And I know probably some of you have already like read it or discuss it with your men's group that you get together. But as I say, we probably gonna try to tackle today two other chapters, and the first two ones, as I said, Pope Francis laid down the ground of the foundation for what is to come. First of all, he does kind of a study, or he kind of look into what happens in the world, what is happening around, and then the other one, he uh, talks about a parable that we all know. There is even civil laws about the Good Samaritan law, no? That it's the parable of the Good Samaritan, which I thought he offered it there. He expressed it, and he used a very Jesuit way to reflect on it, which means that you kind of place yourself within the parable as either of the characters of the parable. You could be the priest, or you could be the person who beat up the other person, or you could be the beat down person, or you could be the Samaritan. You could take all these places as a way of reflecting, and Pope Francis, in his conclusion of this uh, parable, he kind of talks about how we all have a little of everything in us in different times and moments in our life. And again, I think he chose one of those parables that would help anybody who read this document. You don't need to be a believer in Christianity. You don't need to be a believer even in God to just see the teaching of this parable. And I think that's what he's trying to do, to find something what would be common ground for or common understanding for other peoples who do not really like believe in Christ, or do not believe in God, or are just part of our faith, but this parable has a lot of to teach us. So now, Dulce, I would like to move to uh, the third slide, I guess this is. So now the two chapters that come up front, this is where it gets challenging, which for any of us, honestly, is really challenging because Pope Francis talks about something that is envisaging and engendering an open world. So he kind of like, how can we see or start to create a new world? How how can we uh, be people that are able to see uh, something different in the world? He already has set up the basis with what is going on in the first chapter. He kind of give us the biblical lenses to which we have to look at the world, and then of course he's kind of less dream. And again, if we all kind of dig deeper into the document and spend time with it, we would say we would say that is a challenging process. It's a document that, since Pope Francis invites us to reflect and to pray about it and to engage with it, so he's allowing us to be challenged and kind of wrestle with this. So okay, like the other slide. Okay, like the third one, which is says envisaging and engendering an open world. Okay, good. So, well, he says that, okay, no one can experience the true beauty of life without relating to others, without having a real faces to love, and that's kind of found it really, really, really great, because I've lived in different places, and one of the big struggles that I have down in the Dominican Republic was the tension between Haiti and the Dominican Republic, and those cultural tensions. But when you would discuss with people who have a good relationship with a Haitian, so the way they would talk about Haitians would be different than a person who doesn't have a relationship with them. So real faces, Pope Francis is inviting us to put real faces to love. It's and I think that one of his big challenges for us is, it's great to talk about the at some point he says it's great to talk about the poor, and it's great to talk about how to love them and all that, but if you don't take that down and do it, and if you don't really love a poor person, if you don't really love a marginalized person, if you don't really love a different person than you, these all theories stay there but doesn't materialize in anything. So he says, and part of the mystery of life, or its authentic human existence, is to create bonding, to create communion, to create fraternity, and life is stronger than death in that regard. No, when we create true relationships and true bonds of relationship with others, we could be really like strong and alive. And he, of course, he would say that when you don't do that, when you just become like self-sufficient, self-centered, uh, looking at yourself, well, death kind of prevails. Which, I mean, he doesn't. He's not talking about death like dying, but it's kind of like we wither, and we just become like really uh, very, like, we become nothing. No, if I don't have relationships, if I don't have people that I share, if I don't have this joy in life that others give to me, I become every time smaller and smaller and smaller, and then like kind of my joy and my happiness die. So let's go to the next one. So he, of course, he's talking about how we as humans are focused for or are wired or are created for relations, for communion, for bonding with others. So the next thing that he says is what we need to move beyond ourselves. And so he talks about that in the deeper inner of ourselves we are drawn to other people. We are willing, or we are.
What number are we on?
Oh,
What's the number?
4, moving beyond ourselves.
Okay.
Okay. So we have a fuller existence in on the other. And I guess as a priest and a celibate man and single man, well, my joy is like relating to all of you, and I have just experienced a very difficult days of my life, and I was telling to Joy, Eloy, and Dulce, who are here, that I probably am not a very good Christian because I was struggling with that solitude and time, and that disconnection with other people. But as a person who's single and is like get connected with other people in that regard, I feel full when I'm able to do that. But again, if you are out there, who are married, you who have children and have families, you really find yourself full and excited about life when you relate with others. When you see your wife and you are full of life, or you see your husband and or you choose your children. I mean, that give you really life, no? And that's when kind of Pope Francis is like, this is a simple thing. We all know it, but sometimes we forget about that and we get so enclosed in ourselves that we don't move beyond ourselves. And one of the challenges that he gives, and I think this is one of the big ones, is so we cannot, he says, like, we cannot just reduce our life and our relationships with a small group of people, our family, or just those who think alike. But he talks about like how can we like broaden, make broad our relationship with others. So he and that's what I find it very challenging, because you and I, we know that our close circle of friends is the friends that we want to spend time on, and that's okay and that's fine. But Pope Francis is challenging us in this moving beyond ourselves, is to move beyond those comfort zones. You know, of course, your family is your family and it's special, and that's never gonna change. But can you have a friendship which is beyond there? Can you have a relationship with some other people who are not even your same color, and not even your same ideological positions in politics, your same economical status? That's what gets challenging. But that's what this is all about. Fratelli Tutti, it's all about that we are all a family. We are all brothers and sisters, and that's the challenging. So he talks about, again, a very simple. I don't mean by disrespecting, but a very basic understanding. But it says our relationship, if they are healthy and authentic, open us to others who expand and enrich us. So if we do have relationships that are healthy and authentic, it will help us expand. So my family will help me to meet other people that I probably don't get to meet them, but through them they will help me to grow. A good relationship helps the other person to grow. A bad relationship diminishes you, cuts your growing experience. So if you find yourself in a relationship that is not allowing you to grow, you probably better change that. Then he talks about the value, the unique value of love. Our love for others, our love for who they are, move us to seek the best for their lives. It's to be open to, when you love other person, and you are able to look for the best for them. And this here is when that principle that at some point he talks about, that is not only talking about love up there, but is, if you just say I love the poor, so everything in your life needs to be focused, or kind of going towards the way of promoting things that would make their lives better. That's a challenge. So let's move to the next one, Dulce, please. A love of ever more open. No, this is of course, Pope Francis is talking about like love also impels us to towards universal communion. So and of course he talks how Jesus teaches that you are all brothers in Matthew. No, so uh, we don't mature, we don't grow, we don't have a full life in spiritual life if we just withdraw from other people. It's in other people, it's in meeting and having relationship with others is when we grow. And it's sad people who may sometimes because of their own ideology, their own maybe demons in their hearts and all that, cannot create relationships, cannot grow with bigger relationships that will help that person to be fulfilled in his life or her life. So then also he says, well, then this love needs to transcend our own limitations. And he talks about our own limitations and humans, but are also as countries and nations. So we kind of be open to new borders and all this. Again, for some of you, and even for myself, who think I'm a dreamer sometimes, this sounds very challenging and very difficult because it's not a simple way. No, it's not like a few steps that you take this and do this. It's just challenging. But that's what I like about this document. That is, it could be ever new for anyone who read it because it's always to challenge us. So he talks about how open societies we need open societies that integrate everyone, and and this is really amazing because and well, I guess it's surprising that Pope Francis put it there, but it's true. When we always talk about like a society that is open, we think about okay, we need to be open to the immigrant, we need to be open for people from different countries. But he talks about like this openness in love is existential rather than geographical, and that kind of hit me. Existential rather than geographical, which means that it's the challenge that we have daily to expand our circle of friends to reach to those who, even though they are close to us, we consider themselves apart from us. So an example, I don't want to be harsh, but I guess you were missing that from this week. But an example of us, we are here. We are the Catholic community in Central Racine, and for many of us who worship in these parishes, some of us don't even live in these neighborhoods where our parishes are. And if you go to St. Patrick's, it's a different reality. I mean, we just need to walk Villa down here, and it's you know how challenging it is that because that's an existential barrier. It's not geographical. It's us here. We don't even need to think about all those immigrants who, well, we need to think about them, but we don't have to go as far as those who come from other countries. It's like within our own cities, within our own neighborhoods, within our own churches, within our own here. Sometimes those barriers are there, and we need to expand. We need to open our life to those friends. And again, I'm the first one to say I went down the street, the villa, when we did here our national day out. I went with Eloy and some of the youth, knocking doors. We invited a lot of people. Nobody came, but we need to try, no, to try to open ourselves to others. And he talks about something that is also very important here. He mentioned about I would like to mention some of those hidden exiles who are treated as foreigner bodies in society. And he mentioned especially those with disabilities. They feel that they exist without belonging and without participating. You know, people disabled. And again, we need to give him some, cut him some slack because the US or other developing countries, we try to integrate and we try to bring all those disabled, and we have laws in place that we need to have the elevator, we need to have the ramps, and we all do have that. But some places, and the things that I have seen, and I don't want to be harsh, but the things that I have seen about disabled people in the Dominican Republic, it's just crazy, and in Colombia and anywhere. So Pope Francis has that in mind, the Universal Church, and we need, those are hidden exiles, people who have disabilities, sometimes because of the prejudice of society and the culture. Sometimes the families just hide them. Just sometimes the family don't want to, I mean, like, because that looks bad in society, and they are not the places. When I was in the Dominican Republic, Stephen and I, we always talk about like people who have kind of a mental illness, no? And I would say mental illness, not like really terrible, but things that if you have the proper Medicare, the proper health care, and the proper medicines, these people will be completely functional. But because the lack of that in society, they are just homeless people walking around and like not having a future. And that's what Pope Francis tried to tell us and invite us to think. And then he think about also the elderly in society, because of course, again, our world is much focused on on productivity, focus on producing. So the elderly sometimes seem to be a burden, considered that are a burden in some societies. Again, that's what we need. So, but Pope Francis says, well, they, from their own point of view or from their own lives, of course, have their human dignity and all that, but they have something very special to give to us, and we are missing out on that. Because, a disabled person sees the world different than I see it. Just because of, not because it is weird or anything like that, it's because just the reality that she or he lives in is a different reality than the one that I live on. And an elderly person also has a much wealth of experience, that I don't have it. And one of the things that you will be able to see next Friday, we did the first Friday faith sharing, we did it with Father Ron. And we come together to prepare homilies. And here is a guy who has been a priest for 8 years, and there's a guy who has been a priest for 47 years. A guy, he has seen it all, and I have not seen anything. So it's kind of it's a very good and enriching experience for both of us, because I bring a new thing, technology and stuff that he probably don't have in mind, but then he brings all this wealth of knowledge and care, no? So let's go to the next one. So he here comes to the inadequate understandings of universal love, the social friendship, and with a society that we need a society that makes like a true love possible, no? Because there's some, and he criticizes some uh, false universalism, he calls, that all those who kind of, oh, I love being in contact with the world, and I love to be visiting places and all that, and sometimes it's just to escape their own reality. He criticizes they, so they create classes, and I've seen it. I mean, like, you guys don't see that because you have it here, but the experience in Colombia, Dominican Republic, Mexico is that many of the wealthy in those countries, like the shopping malls, is Miami, Houston, and they kind of like, oh, this weekend I'm gonna go shopping in Miami. This weekend I'm gonna go shopping in Houston, or it's like, come on. So they kind of run away from their own uh, uh, people. And Pope Francis said, well, while people speak about all this universal love and all that, they are forgetting those who they have close to them. And he creates separation and different classes, and he's like this kind of denying the room that everybody deserves in the world, no? He criticizes also a model of globalization that is kind of that creates uniformity, no? when you globalize, and probably there will be some social economic models, like, okay, he's basically there uh, um, criticizing communism and socialism that will create like a one model of society that is all uniform. Well, no, you need to, the diversity is enriching. The diversity is, it's what make us what we are. And so he doesn't want to like make this superficial and quest for unity, which is not based in love, but actually something that is not really good. And also, he criticized the globalization that destroys the rich gifts and the uniqueness of each person and each people. We just make one big thing, so we don't respect the uniqueness of the peoples. It's and you could, you could see it how, like, just seeing it, the the videos that we done, like the richness for what we did for the bathrooms in Bolivia. You see how rich that culture is. The people, of course, they live in a poverty situation, but by their cultural ways and their spirituality and the relationship to the nature and all these things are very special and unique. And it will be lost if we just kind of impose our develop vision on them, and this is the way it should be. Okay, of course, nobody should go hungry or anything like that, but it's not to bring and impose something that will make us all equal and all technological and have all our iPhones or whatever phones we want to have. But no, rather is how do we enrich or appreciate or help these people to live at the fullness of what they are. And that's what Pope Francis kind of is trying to talk about, that this false universalism ends up depriving the world of its various colors and beauty and its humanity. And he talks about that the future is no monochrome, but it's more like different colors. Let's move to the next one, Dulce. Oh my gosh, I'm doing very bad today on time wise. I missed you guys, so this. So beyond a world of associates, and this is a point that he kind of talk about, that of course we are not neighbors, or we are creating, or we live in a world that is people associate, because we have this interest and I have this interest in common with you. We just come together and do that, basically, like, if you want to put an office and three or four lawyers or three or four real estate agents or whatever, they come together with one interest, and they just associate themselves and create this company. And that's basically that some people look at relationships more associates, that just for the thing that we like and we see together. But Pope Francis talks about, like, how can we move from just being associates to being brothers and sisters, to be neighbors to others, to kind of work in this family type of relationships. I think he's a dreamer, because we just, we don't, some of us, we just want to stay at the level of being associate, and I want you here and me here, and then we work together. But then each one of us has our own worries and our own things, and that is when we stay. And so he calls here, and he talks here about the experience of the Good Samaritan, that because he doesn't have any label, so he's able to help the other person. He transcended the narrow classifications of society. If you remember, the people were coming, there was a priest, there was a Levite, so they have the levels already that were not able, or these labels or this status in society didn't allow them to become neighbors to others. Because I belong to this group of people, I cannot help this. And so when we free of every label and position, he talks about the Good Samaritan, free of every label and position, he was able to interrupt his journey, change his plans, and expectedly come to the aid of an injured person who needed his help. this is something that really good to think about, because uh, when we when we let or when we allow labels to distance ourselves from others, that's really tragic for humanity, tragic for us. So he talks about of course, liberty and the next slide. To say, liberty, equality, and fraternity. No, it's he talks about that all this is grown, and it comes from a really true relationship, and based on love, and no kind of thought about like lofty thoughts, but it should be really based on love, because other things would just leave us or lead us to think that fraternity or equality or liberties to whatever do whatever we want. And that's kind of what he says, that this world of associates, this world of this culture of oh, let's give all these rights, all these things like that, and all these labels. Basically what we are looking into is that people become very individualistic. People become very uh, uh, kind of selfish, and just try to use my liberties or my rights or my all this to do whatever they want, and it's not based on love. And above all, everything needs to be based on love, no? So he talks about like individualism does not make us more free, more equal, more fraternal. The mere sum of individuals' interests is not capable of generating a better world for the whole human family, nor can it save us from the many ills that are now increasingly globalized. Radical individualism is a virus that is extremely difficult to eliminate, for it is clever. It makes us believe that everything consists in giving free rein to our own ambitions. So I think that's the best, the best criticism that I found about individualism. No, it's the sum of my individuals doesn't make us. It's we need to base our relationships and just become a family. So this is more important, that my relationship to the other person, and it's not just me. It's kind of it's the difficult thought there. Okay, so let's move to the next one. So a universal love that promotes persons. So he his whole idea of I would say he doesn't use it there, but when he talks about love and this universal love, I think is Pope Francis terms like we have in economics, we have globalization, the globalization of economy, the free trade, the free moving of goods from one side to another side, so that we could make profit and we could buy things cheaper and all that. So we all benefit from that globalized world. And I think what he's trying to say is that we should also have a globalized love, which means that we really want to love other people. We really love to have a true relationship with others. That acknowledge this love, global love, that acknowledges the worth of every human person. So that as much as I like whatever that is come out of Africa to make goods, I should also love that person who works in that mine and all that, and be mindful of that person, because that human person is worth and is made at the image of God. So it's kind of it's a challenge, no? Because he talks about like each individual is has a great worth, and the mere fact that some people are born in places with fewer resources or less developed does not justify that the fact that they are living with less dignity. And this is really, this is when he starts now to kind of getting very challenging, because normally, and it has been challenged for me sometimes, like, well, you have to work hard to have some good things that other people have, but at the same time, it's like you and I, we never chose the place that we were born. We never chose the parents that we had. We were lucky enough, some of us, to have a father and a mother who gave it all for us and gave us a good education and all that, and we were lucky to be born in a place that have all these social resources, and other people were just not lucky to be born in those places. And then it doesn't mean that I'm worth more than they, and I'm more, and I deserve more than them, and but that's the way we society work. And Pope Francis is very strong about that. You know, every human being has the right to live with dignity and to develop integrally. This fundamental right cannot be denied by any country. So this is, he talks about like some of societies accept this principle in part. They agree that opportunity should be available to everyone, but then go on to say that everything depends on the individual. From this skewed perspective, it would be pointless to favor an investment in efforts to help the slow, the weak, or the less talented to find opportunities in life. And that's true. I mean, like you say, we say here, I'm not gonna cop I try to be very uh, loving and caring, but you know, if we talk about U.S. as the land of the opportunities, and it is. But if you have the right education, the right family, and the right connections, and the right place, you're being born in the right place. If you are born down the street here, chances are that you don't have the equal opportunities. The equal opportunities that the state provides, yes, they are, but it's if you have all these other preconditions, that's what is fine challenging. And again, I I grew up in Colombia. Marti, one of the priests from my community, works in the south skirts of Bogota, in a very poor area. And I went to visit him like a couple of years ago. I went to the parish and I told him these are not my Colombians. And it's like, well, because they don't have the opportunity and they didn't grow where I grew up. You know, they didn't. My home is, we are not rich, but my home has a space. These people live in a city, in a mega city, that they don't really have space. You know, they 10 people living in not many foot squares. So it's kind of difficult, and it was, I find it challenging for me too, because yes, we think about that the government or everybody has to promote, the state has to promote equal opportunity for everybody, but not everybody is not everybody begins at the same level. We all have different levels. I went to a private school. Some people didn't go to a private school. I have the chance to have food in the table three times a day. So some people didn't. So it's, you know, that's all things that have a mother and father who love me. So other people have just a mother or just a father. You know, it's just a challenging thing. So Pope Francis talked about that we really need to be focused in this love that promotes everyone. Okay, let's move to another one. Promoting the promoting the moral good. Pope Francis talks about here that we need to will, or to have the attitude that is very well grounded on the scriptures, to will the good for others, to to seek what is best for others, to like, and this is the challenging thing, because normally we focus in what would be good for me, no? And he said we have, he here, regretfully I feel bound to reiterate that we have had enough of immorality and the mockery of ethics, goodness, faith, and honesty. It is time to acknowledge that light-hearted superficiality has done us not good. Once the foundations of social life are corroded, what ensues are battles over conflicting interests. So he's talking about that we have left corruption take on the different institutions, all the institutions. You know, we have, and we have gone to a superficiality of living our lives, and he wants us to think about in a deeper, in a profound sense of how I'm willing the good of all. And again, so this is another thing. We cannot change the whole nation and the whole world, but but we could change what the way we do things, the way we relate to others, the way we treat others, the way we do things. And starting by small, something will happen at some point. Maybe you and I, we don't see it because we are not going to live that longer, but somebody will see it. What we start, if we allow that love of God and promoting what is good for others to start, it will be like a snowball. And you guys know about a lot about snow. I don't, but it grows. I saw that. So, and he talks about also the value of solidarity, and he talks about this solidarity that helps create a solid foundation of moral goods, or moral morality on the person. That is not uh, he, it's not something that is just superficial, but it talks about how the families are responsible to give a very good moral compass to their children, how the teachers need to be also able to give a very good morals to the children, so that that then the person will be solid, and become a very grounded person that will be able to strive to create a good for others, no? And then you are able to be in solidarity with others. But if you are not grounded, and if you are not uh, based on some good values, chances are that you are not going to be able to be in solidarity with others. Okay, so yes, 5 minutes. So let's move to another one. So then here is when it gets challenging, and I hope I'm gonna finish this chapter. He talks about envisioning the social role of property. Yeah, the next one, please. So this, what is left in this chapter, is probably what some people would criticize him for being socialist or communist or something like that. And actually, no, it's Jesus in the gospel talking about that. But he talks about like the social property, or role of property, no? And the first base for there is the world exists for everyone. So God created us, put us here, and say, multiply and take care of this piece of land that I gave you. He didn't say, hey, you are cute, tall, handsome. You are to own all this, and oh, you are kind of ugly, so get out of here and do whatever you know. He make us the world for all of us. And because of us, we are born with the same. Because all of us were born with the same dignity, so there is no difference of color, religion, talent, place of birth, of residence, and so many others cannot be used to justify the privileges of some over the rights of all. And here's the thing, no? And one of the big things is that, and we have back in the 80s in Colombia some kind of reshaping the land, because it happened that so many people have remained with a lot of big farms, and then other people have no land, and there was the government promoting, the state promoting to all those who have big huge plots of land. The state will buy land and then sell it to small farmers, so that everybody would have land. So people didn't like it. And of course we don't like to take the things that we consider ours, if we look at property like something that is my right, my gift, when we stay at that level, so we feel that we are not obliged to share with others. And at the beginning, in Christianity, at the beginning, everybody sold everything and put it together to have, and nobody was going without food. I mean, it is a challenging thing now that we are bigger. It worked when churches were like 60, 20 families, it would be easy. But now that we are a universal church, it's kind of hard. But the idea is there, no? And Pope Francis quotes two saints that are really amazing. Saint John Chrysostom summarizes the role of property in this way: not to share our wealth with the poor is to rob them and take away their livelihood. The riches we possess are not our own, but theirs as well. This this is John Chrysostom. This is not even. This is one of the church fathers. This is Pope Francis is not making up. This is, and then Saint Gregory the Great, Pope. When we provide the needy with their basic needs, we are giving them back. We're giving them what belongs to them, not to us. This is in the Christian tradition. So again, he also quotes Saint John Paul II. That says, God gave the earth to the whole human race for the sustenance of all its members, without excluding or favoring anyone. What Pope Francis kind of tell us, how do we rethink private property, is in the way of saying, well, private property is a right, and of course it's the right of each one of us, but the first right is that everybody has what they need to live a life in a dignified way. So once it does happen, then you could talk about, this is my right, because everybody has, and then I could happens to work harder and all that. But first of all, to private property is not to look at it in a way that, no, I have it a right, and so if you don't have food, I don't care. No, it's like, how can we see that everybody has what they need to live a human and dignified life? Then private property could be really claimed as a right. And I know it's challenging, I know it's very difficult, but at least if we were able to think in a more grateful way about the things that we have, in a more appreciative way, the gifts that God has given us, it would be good. So he talks about that. Okay, so the right to private property can only be considered a secondary natural right derived from the principle of the universal destination of created goods. This has concrete consequences that ought to be reflected in the workings of society. Yet, it often happens that secondary rights displace primary and overriding rights, in practice making them irrelevant. Okay? Next one, Dulce. So then, of course, he goes to the next level. So the first one is with us at the human level. The second is rights without borders. So, a nation cannot be rich and then forget about a poor nation. Now he's talking about that. And of course, he kind of talks about how sometimes that we all have the responsibility with other people, And I think it's Jeffrey Sachs, who is an economist, who talks about that we could end poverty if we were to put all ourselves into it, and it would be, the debt that some nations have. If we were to rethink all those debts and all those things, we probably could end poverty, because we are able. I mean, the world has so many resources that could happen, and work on that. And Pope Francis talks about that a person born in Haiti or born in Ethiopia has the same rights that the person born here in the U.S. and I don't know what's the zip code reaches here, but somewhere where the nicest homes with a view to the lake. Well, that's the same thing. That person has the same rights, and so we shouldn't just that some of us have more rights than others. No, everybody has it. And the last, so to conclude this chapter, because I think Eloy just want me to be out of here, the rights of peoples. The rights of peoples. So he talks about that nowadays a firm belief in the common destination of earth goods require that this principle also be applied to nations, their territories, and their resources. And he quotes the Bishop of the United States. They are fundamental rights that precede any society because they flow from the dignity granted to each person as created by God. So, for a real and lasting peace will only be possible on the basis of a global ethic of solidarity and cooperation in the service of a future shaped by the interdependence and shared responsibility in the whole human family. And he talks about here, and he says, of course, if we look about helping nations with our profitable mindset, so helping the poor sometimes doesn't make any sense. And I'm telling you, who I work in with some projects that I created with poor people in the Dominican Republic, and sometimes it doesn't it is not profitable. You lose money. You lose what you invest, but you are not investing about having returns. The returns is the human dignity that these persons are able to enjoy, you know. And 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 he's talking about that we need to envision a society, envision a culture that is able to invest in others, to support others, even if it doesn't seem to be profitable. But we all have the responsibility to do that. And peace, and a world that is not burdened with war or anything like that, it's only going to happen when everybody kind of has their own basic needs solved. You see that sometimes people do crazy things just because they are desperate, because they don't have the things. I mean, like as we mentioned about immigration, many people don't want to leave their homes, but it's out of desperate ways. So if we all uh, look into a different way and have as a world a different view of the property, the role of property, and the role of goods, and the role of technology and everything that we have and we have been able to achieve to benefit every human being on earth, things would be different. And you wouldn't see people crossing the border here, or people trying to cross the Mediterranean Sea and dying there because they wanted to look for a new bag, or going in the Middle East or the. I mean, it's just crazy. But anyway, so I'm glad to be back with you here, and I'm gonna leave it there. Again, as I told you, we continue to read this encyclical. I'm sorry I talked too much. Do you have any questions? I think okay. Uh, anyway, that's it. So thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you for your prayers. I didn't want to say what was happening because I didn't want to worry you, but it happens that it was counterproductive. Some of you were more worried than if I would have told you. So, but I'm good and healthy, and it was just a very scary time because I realized that I don't do well. I don't do it well with how you say? Oh, I forgot. Uncertainty. With uncertainty. I was waiting and waiting for the results, either to know if I was sick or not, but to know. I mean, like not knowing was killing me. But it was a good exercise. And anyway, thank you for tuning in, and see you tomorrow.